Then at the end of 2019, Jupiter squares his Mercury. So his Mercury, Jupiter's trying to figure out what to do. And Jupiter's squaring it, so he's getting ideas. And his ideas are always going to be a little tempted. I can get away with this. What deal can I make? What can I do? So the Jupiter, he gets some idea coming up. January, again, Jupiter squaring his Venus, Mars. Now, Jupiter encourages the action. So he's going to be trying instigating things from inside, from wherever he is, to try and still do something, whether he can or not, or he's having to adjust his understanding to that he won't be able to. Hard to say. Big puzzle. Then there's no big thing. There's little things, Mars squaring and that, but then Mars doesn't conjunct his squares. Where does it square? It squares to 2020, the beginning of 2020. Again, we don't have anything showing here. That's why this 2-year thing I always do when I do with a client, I have the more immediate things week by week, day by day as they come up. Then in July 2020, Mars conjuncts his Sun. So for him, Mars, by July, he's wanting to do things. He's impulsive, but he's not in a situation where he can do that very much. So it's confused. He's a confused person. He's been able to scramble and do things in spite of things. He knows how to get around, kind of like a Gollum character. My precious, my precious. He can maintain his relationship in spite of whatever obstacles with whatever characters he'd met. But this one point, the Uranus conjunct the Moon, we have to remember we're working with the Moon chart, and it's not necessarily there. It's somewhere between 2018 and probably 2030 that Uranus is going to conjunct that Moon. So you know that it's a change of style. It could be what's happening now. That could be argued maybe that's happening now. That puts his time a few hours earlier than noon. Might put his Sun in the 11th house of schmoozing and making the connections to people. That might still give him the Gemini ascendant. That's possible. I'm just thinking. But nothing, you have to take a chart, set an example, try and set up, then do the transits to that chart, do the progressions to that chart, just make sure the house positions seem to be appropriate to take it the next step. But this is how it was mostly to show you how I work with it. Like, in this case, it's funny because there wasn't anything showing right now, which is so much is happening. It's unlikely. I think it's most likely Uranus is either that he's born a little bit earlier and the Moon is being hit now, shaking up his world, his past shook up, or that he might have his ascendant and his ascendant or something in this area and being hit during this time period, or his ascendant or his IC or his MC or DC, one of his angles are going to be hit during this period that's confronting everything. So it's not everything. So if you were coming in to see me, I'd be looking at this, I'd be talking about these difficulties, I'd create the long-term picture, but in the story of the long-term picture, he would fill in gaps. I'd ask questions about mom, dad, different things. I'd be trying to focus on questions to try and get a little more. So when I have so much chart like this, I've done a lot of charts where I didn't know the time over the years, certainly a few hundred, and I still worked with them. I still did them. I think I got my confidence from when I used to do the talk shows on radio and people would tell me the birth dates. They didn't know the time. I still had to say things to them and what was important. So I did that to thousands of people. So that probably got my insight thinking in this way. But I just thought I'd do one to give an example. You don't get the same conclusion, you don't get the same excitement, but if it was right on the Saturn opposition or things, you can begin to walk in and see them. So we can't, like here we got the Uranus to the Moon, the next significant thing, we can't rely on that. That's a wild card that could be happening earlier or later, but it's an alert factor changing his lifestyle. What's the radical change to his lifestyle would not be him making more money or getting more things or getting away from things. It's more, it wasn't his to begin with. Now, some of the Pluto to the Moon confrontations in his life, he's got 2 daughters who've got to live with the shame and the scandal of their dad. Not only being the rip-off artist, but also having the affairs and paying for another woman, not being loyal to mom or anything like that, really being consistently there for them. And suddenly, depending on how much losses come down, how much, whether their estate or their properties end up being lost too. So you have the scandals or schemes around this man affecting his Mercury, Venus, Mars, Sun. He's Mr. Schemes, but there's scandals and confusion all around him. There's webs of deception all around him. And he navigated through the swamp. But by the time Saturn opposed his Sun, he was making these big deals, and he went bigger than he should have. He went beyond his scene, went to another country, but started lining up with wrong characters, and eventually it's caught up to him. But I find it most interesting, because I never thought about him more than a month ago, other than deciding to do this chart, and then doing it, and then looking and seeing this, then looking up and seeing more about him, is that he was hired, and he was the powerful go-to man for Ford, for Reagan, for H.W. Bush, for Trump. This is a person who really manipulated power and manipulated presidents, or was manipulated by them, but certainly not an insignificant person, but certainly with questionable values and ready to do with a lack of discrimination. Smart, but with a lack of discrimination. I guess it's perfect promotion person for a campaign. Okay, I think I'm done here. Oh yeah, we're right on time. Okay, so that's this week's. Next week's, we're going to go a little more familiar. 1 second, where are we here? Go down to get the chart. I'll show you too. Sorry. Pics, images, astrology, RASA, webinars, transit cases. Next week. Okay, next week we're dealing with Donald Trump's chart. And we're going to look at the transits, and we'll look at the next 4 years coming up, the last 4 years, and we look at his life. We're going to take a look at the timings in Donald Trump. We did his character in the analysis, so we're going to follow suit like that. So you've done the chart before, so you've worked with it. And we're going to look at the timings. You should look at the timings and try to see what's happening, to see how things are going and where you see them going for. Okay, June 14th, 46, 10:54 a.m., New York City. That's daylight saving time. Okay, thanks. Bye.